If you are confused with doing forms in Next.js, then you need to watch this video because there's a lot of confusion coming up right now and we need to solve this. So what makes a good form or what makes a form a good form? We need understandable code structure. That's mainly for us developers. We need to understand the code, make it maintainable, make it understandable, also for new people coming to our company. The next thing is we need to have a user-friendly or easy to use, or in general terms, a good user interface. It just needs to look good, like for real. Don't make it look something like this. It's not so beautiful, I would say. But this Shetzian approach you see here, for example, I know it's a little bit blurry, I'm sorry about that, but this looks just clean, like the padding, the margins, everything just relate together so nicely. So we really want that. What else do we need? We need validation. Like a form without validation is no form. We need to validate the user input. We need to validate it on the server, of course, because otherwise we have big security issues, and we need to validate it on the client so it gets faster. And of course, it just needs to look good, but that's actually in relation to that. So this is making a form a good form. So let's look at how do forms generally work in Next.js. Like what is the basic structure we need? So of course, we need something like a form element. So inside the form element, we need a input and we need a button to submit this. And the input in Next.js need a name property. So we say, let's make this an input for, I don't know, let's say username. So we name this one username. Usually you can play around with labels here, and we are not concentrating on styling here in this tutorial. It's mainly about clearing up the confusion that's maybe in your head when you think about doing forms in Next.js. Because there's use client, there's use server, there are a couple of problems, couple of things from React, but also things coming from Next.js. And I just really want to show you what's the best way right now. So now I'm going to show you the default Next.js way. So here you can implement an action function. So you can say action, and now we need a actions.ts file. I mean, you can call it however you want. It's just mandatory that this has a use server here on the top. And now I'm just declaring a simple function. Let's call this one handle submit. This looks now just like that. We're exporting it, so we can just say here handle submit. And what we need to do now is inside of this function, we get something that is called form data. Like we can say console.log form data.get username. So this is the way we get what the user typed in here. So let's run this now, and we get a build error. Why do we get a build error? Because this function is just not async, so we need to say export default async functions. So server actions need to be asynchronous functions like this. And when we head over now, we see already the submit button and the input field, which is like this is not a good start right now, but it doesn't care. So my username typically for games is AngryObi. So we type this in here and we click submit. And yeah, we doesn't see anything here right now, but we head back over and look at this, and we see AngryObi inside of the terminal. Why do we see it in this terminal? Because this is a user action, and this means it is processed on the server. So this terminal is like the server, and this console right here is like the client terminal. Okay, how do we validate data right now? So for that, we need Zot. So we type in pnpm. You can use npm as well. I use pnpm typically. Pnpm I Zot like that. And we can use Zot here on the top now to say const schema is equal to Zot.object. This already looks great. And let's say like this, but we don't need that all, and Zot still needs to be imported like this. And now we have a schema. This already looks great. Here we need another bracket and this bracket, and this is not existing anymore. So we say this needs to be a string. Let's make this .min3 and max 20. So a username needs to have at least 3 characters, as it's most 20. So what we can do now is something like this: const data schema parse. We just say not parse, we say save parse. I think this is a new way of doing it. And now we add an object in here with username form that get username. We don't need to make it as string. This already is enough. And now we can console.log data, which is not a good name. Let's call it result. So we have result.data.username. So that's basically, so let's jump into it and type in or refresh it and type in AN, for example. So this should not work because it's less than 3 characters, and we submit this and look back into our application. And we see undefined because this was not allowed, and we can test this probably inside of here. And when we type in something like angry Obi now again, or just angry, submit this, head over into the code, and we see angry is here. So we have server-side validation. So that's the basic way how Next.js explains how the whole system works. But this has some problems. I mean, the good side is this is server-side. But it's not like the best way to do it because we doesn't have client-side validation, because this needs to be on the client. And we have some other problems. But now I just want to talk about what is what. What are these terms you always hear about? Because there are some, and for me there was a time where I was not sure what means what. Like there is this React hook form thing. This is a lightweight library for managing forms in React. And this is not part of Next.js. Then we have this use action state thing. This is a new thing that is not supported right now and will be supported in React 19 and lets you handle action states. Then we have use form state. This is the thing right now, which is coming from React hook form. And with that, you can access the current state of the form, like the new action state thing. But yeah, the use action state thing is from React directly, and this is just from a library. And then we have this use optimistic thing also coming with React 19, which is supposed to change the world of UI because using use optimistic is doing so many cool things. But we will make a video about that. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, don't wonder why the color has changed. I was a little bit hot. So yeah, what different approaches can you probably take? You could do something like saving the elements you have in your form, for example, the username or the password. Okay, maybe not the password, but username, or maybe you have a form for your e-commerce and there you have t-shirt sizes like S, M, L, XL, or like different checkboxes, and you could save those property inside of the URL. This is an approach I see sometimes, because this has the benefit that you can share this form with the inputs, and another one could open this form and has the same inputs. Like you share this blue t-shirt in an M and send a link, and somebody clicks this, and then the form doesn't get resetted because it's saved in the URL, and you can see the same t-shirt as the one that sent it to you. So this is a benefit of it. But it gets quite complex with big forms. That's why I wouldn't suggest you to do it, except you maybe want to share your form, which is not a typical thing you do. Then we have this approach where you, like here, where you do it completely server-side, which has the benefits that it's server-side and all the benefits that are coming with server-side. If you want to see the benefits, I have a video about that. You can click it right now. But you miss features like, for example, client-side validation, which is very handy because you don't want the server to do everything. And if you do server-side validation, you also have some time. Like you click this and then it takes around 300 milliseconds if you have a good connection before you see the validation errors. But you want to see it directly. So that's why I would suggest to also do it on the client. And now we want to head over to the best approach that I would suggest, and that is suggested by big frameworks or component libraries like Shadcyan, for example. And we will take this Shadcyan approach because at the time now it's still the best. So let's install Shadcyan right now. We make it pretty quickly. We just copy this one, go back into our code and paste it inside of here. Take the New York approach, the sync thing, the CSS variables. I really go through that very quickly now because we want to concentrate on the form part. But if you want to see this in more detail, I have a video about that. You can click it right here now. So now to get started, we need to also install this form command with pnpm dlx shadcyan at latest add form. So we add this, and now we can start with implementing the form. For that, because of the client-side validation, we need to make this one use client. And we get rid of this part and of this import. And now the first thing we do here at the top is importing Zot and defining the schema, like the same as we done on the backend or on the server side, but now on the client side. So we define the form schema here. Now inside of the function, we are declaring the form with the hook useForm, and useForm is coming from React hook form. So we need to install this right now, React hook form. This is at the moment still the most used library for forms, and I would suggest you because we have a couple of advantages from that. So now we can import those, what we need here on the top. This is the useForm and the Zot resolver for resolving the parsed schema. So we define our form now with useForm. Here this is like TypeScript ugly stuff, but we need this for the schema here on top to secure that this username is really like at minimum 2 characters and at maximum 50 characters. And here we can specify also default values for the username here now. The next thing we can already do is implementing the onSubmit form. So this is called when the form is submitted and it gets the values from the Zot schema. So we know that these values have this structure because this is already parsed and secured and typeset. So now the last thing we need is the actual components from Shadcyan. Why are we taking them from Shadcyan? Because Shadcyan is doing good components. So we still need to support this input thing. So we can just look at the last command. We installed something from Shadcyan. Where was it? Like here. And now we can say not add form. We can say add input, and we can clear this, close this, and this is known now. And now we can just use this form right here. How is this working? This form component is from Shadcyan. This is the one we installed. This is the native form. This is just a wrapper from Shadcyan for giving more functionality into it. And then we have a form field for every field we have. Let's say we have a username, then we would have another form field for the password, for example. Or if you have a checkbox for your age, for example, if you're over 18 or something like this, then you would have another form field. So one form field for every input or checkbox or password field or number input, whatever. And then you always have to connect this to the form, give it a name. The name should be the same as here in the default values and in the form schema. And then you have this form label, the final input field with a placeholder, so we can say something like type in here. And we have this form description. This is your public display name, but we can say here something like, or we can say must be at least 2 characters and at most 50 characters, so the user already knows how to submit this form. And if we look at this right now, and now we can type in here something like angry Obi and submit this. And everything seems to work right now. And if we take a look, we really see this gets not printed in the terminal right now because we are now on the client side. You need to be aware of that. So when you want to see these values, we need to click inspect right here and say console. And here we have this object right now with username angry Obi. And if we do, for example, too many characters, 50 characters is wrong. I think I said 20, right? Let's take a look at this shortly. What did I say here? No, I said 50, but let's make 20 right now. And now, he already cries string must contain at most 20 characters. And when I submit it, nothing happens. So I need to make it 20 characters like this, submit it. And now the name gets submitted here in the username. And what you can do then is here inside of that, we could, for example, handle this method, call this method handle submit the action right here and do the whole server stuff, whatever you need to do. So that's the way to do it right now, and that's the way I would suggest it because you get the most benefits out of this. But how is this going to look in 1 year or 2 years? What are the upcoming trends or upcoming changes we will see? And I think optimistic UI with React 19 will play a big role here because then we don't need to handle states anymore and we can just do forms very, very quickly. But I think we will always have this use client thing because client-side validation has just too many advantages. It's just so much faster than server-side validation and really gives the user a better experience. But I would love to hear about you in the comments section or just hit the like icon, and we see each other in the next video. Bye bye.